I am not talking about the longsword. Before we go anywhere in this video, I want to make very, very clear I am not talking about the longsword. This is a general point on a general topic, and it is unrelated to the longsword or the hunting horn or anything else. So, if you leave a comment that longsword shouldn't be nerfed, then please understand that you too are making a general point. You are not replying to me, because that is not what I said, and it is not a position that I hold. No. This video is a response to a very specific type of argument, a common one that I hear all the time. Its content varies, but always goes something like, things shouldn't be nerfed in a PvE or solo game. Now I think this argument has no weight, but unfortunately it's also slippery. It's a difficult argument to counter at first glance, and that has led it to gain undeserved popularity. It draws you in to murky water. Arguments of this type always force you into discussions about game balance, game design, and while you're busy trying to sift through the weeds, your opponent can take a moral, libertarian type of position. Stuff like, overpowered weapons don't affect you. You should let people play how they want. And if you don't like it, play something else. All the while ignoring all evidence you might present that it does in fact affect you, and dismissing your efforts to explain the nuances of game balance. So today I bring you what I think is a knockout argument for why overpowered weapons absolutely should be nerfed, even in a PvE game. First, let's look at this very short clip of a TED Talk conversation by Frans de Waal, a very prominent primatologist.
So a final experiment that I want to mention to you is our fairness study. And so this became a very famous study, and there's now many more, because after we did this about 10 years ago, it became very well known. And we did that originally with Capuchin monkeys, and I'm going to show you the first experiment that we did. It has now been done with dogs, and with birds, and with chimpanzees. But with Sarah Brosnan, we started out with Capuchin monkeys. So what we did is we put two Capuchin monkeys side by side. Again, these animals, they live in a group. They know each other. We take them out of the group, put them in a test chamber. And there's a very simple task that they need to do. And if you give both of them cucumber for the task, the two monkeys side by side, they're perfectly willing to do this 25 times in a row. So cucumber, even though it's really only water in my opinion, but cucumber is perfectly fine for them. Now, if you give the partner grapes, the food preferences of my Capuchin monkeys correspond exactly with the prices in the supermarket. And so if you give them grapes, it's a far better food, then you create inequity between them. So that's the experiment we did. Recently, we videotaped it with new monkeys who had never done the task, thinking that maybe they would have a stronger reaction, and that turned out to be right. The one on the left is the monkey who gets cucumber. The one on the right is the one who gets grapes. The one who gets cucumber, note that the first piece of cucumber is perfectly fine. The first piece she eats. Then she sees the other one getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber, and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again.
Let's take a moment to examine what's happening here. According to Frans, if you give each monkey cucumbers, they'll be happy to repeat the task any number of times. But if you give the Capuchin monkeys different rewards for the same task, the dynamic changes. Monkeys, you see, understand the concept of fairness, and the cucumber monkey is now possessed by a moral outrage, going so far as to throw the cucumber out of the cage and at the researcher. The important takeaway here is that before, the same piece of cucumber was perfectly acceptable. It was a fine reward for the task. The quality of Cucumber's monkey's reward was not lowered. In a sense, he's not being affected. At least if we go by the same logic of those people who believe weapons shouldn't be nerfed in PvE games. However, as you can see, this little Capuchin monkey would probably disagree. He is being affected. In fact, the injustice of his situation has made him so indignant that he's willing to forgo the reward he was happy with only seconds before, just to throw it at the researcher and express his displeasure. What I like most about this experiment is that it cuts to the heart of the original argument. I don't have to sift through any weeds, or address anything relating to game balance, game design, or anything else most of us aren't experts in. It doesn't let you obfuscate the point, and it cuts the legs out from under the idea that you shouldn't care what other people are doing. Because humans, you see, are bipedal apes, with an evolutionary history and a sense of fairness. So what you think other people should or should not care about is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that humans, like monkeys, dogs, and birds, do care when they sense unequal, preferential treatment. And that includes when they perceive one monster hunter weapon is significantly stronger than the others. So yes, overpowered weapons should be nerfed. But nerf can mean a lot of things, and can be handled in different ways. It can be as simple as reducing motion values, but it could also mean increasing the difficulty of playing a weapon optimally. I suspect people would have less problems with the longsword if it simply reduced its invincibility frames and activation frames, making optimal play harder to achieve. But regardless of that, I hope I have convinced you on the importance of weapon balance. It is in part to avoid this reaction in other players. And saying that those players just shouldn't feel that way is not an argument. And that's the end of this video. For anyone I haven't alienated yet, I'm sure I'll get to you in a future video. Until then, thank you for listening.